Hi there. You'll have to excuse my voice, I have got a cold, but I am nevertheless going to explain to you how I fatten up old brakes. Now, my primary tool is this amazing piece of software that came out last year, and it's made by SPL. It's called the Drum Exchanger. Now, this was actually developed to replace drums on live multi-track drum takes, but I've devised a way that I like to use for fattening up old brakes. Now, the brake I'm going to use is by Alex Reese. It's from one of his key Metalheadz tunes. Now, I wouldn't do this and then go and use this because that would be like stealing from Alex Reese. But I'm just going to use this as an example to show you how I fatten up. Now, first of all, let's listen to the brake in its original form. Alright, this is the original brake with no effects on it. Now, I have sliced it a little bit and sped it up to my preferred tempo of 173, but that's all I've done to it. So, first of all, before I do any tweaking at all, I'm going to add my Oxford EQ to roll off some of the bottom end. You'll find out why in a minute. I have my favourite compressor, which is the Glue, and this is an emulation of a solid state Logic bus compressor. It's fantastic. No, I don't think I'll add that. Right, then I add Cubase's own compressor on top of that, and we use the side chain function on this. I'll show you how in a minute. Now, what I've done, this is the brake in its entirety. I've fattened it up to boost all of the detail, all of the ghost notes, if you like, and the hi-hats and everything. Now, what's lacking in this for modern day production is the kick and the snare are not fat enough. Now, what I've done on tracks 1 and 2 here, I've taken the Alex Reese brake and I've isolated the kicks here. So they sound. Let me just edit this now. Okay, so remove all the effects off there. Okay, that's the kicks from the Alex Reese brake. Now, there's no point just adding those back in because they're the same as the kicks on the original brake. But what I've done, the most important thing is this. Using the Drum Exchanger, I've substituted this kick for a much fatter kick, and you'll be able to hear that. So this is the kick I've decided to use, which is actually from another old brake done by an 80s group called A Certain Ratio. And it was their cover version of a funk tune called Shack Up. This is the kick from that. Now, I've added this to my Alex Reese track. Oh, it's backing up, go away. Now, also added to this, I've added the Oxford inflator to fatten up the kick a bit. I've added some liquid mix, which is kind of an emulation of very old kind of vintage gear, compression and EQ. And of course there's a limiter on there which I put on every channel just to make sure it doesn't get all naughty. Now, what I've done is I've sent this kick signal to the side chain of the bus compressor on the original brake. Now, if I just ease off on that side chain send, this is how the kick sounds mixed in with the original brake. But the reason I'm sending it to the compressor is I want the kick to shine through on its own a little bit. Now, it sounds to me like the release time on the compressor on the brake is too slow. So let's just adjust that a little bit. quick as it can be. Now, I've applied exactly the same process to the snare track. So let's have a listen to the snare track. First of all, take off these effects here and here, and we will bring up the drum exchanger on the snare and just bypass it so I can listen to okay, here we go. So that's the original Alex Reese snare. Now I've replaced it with a snare from my snare library that's called Backbeat Snare. I could have replaced it with this one, but I decided to use the Backbeat Snare. Now, one of the really good things about the drum exchanger is that you can alter the tuning of your new snare here, and you can alter the transients, give it loads more attack, remove sustain or add sustain, and you can mix dry and wet between your original drum and your new drum. Now, you may be wondering why I'm using this rather than, say, using battery or contact or a sample player, or even just dropping the drum in on the track. And it's because the drum exchanger, it reads the transients and the dynamic of the drum that you're replacing, and it imparts those to the new drum that you're using. So it's very intuitive, and I find it a lot quicker, to be honest, and a lot more musical than just plonking a snare in as a waveform, or even using, say, battery or any kind of a sampler, whether that's Halion or EX1 or whatever. So let's have a listen to how the snare sounds over the break. Let me just clear this up a bit, it's all getting a bit congested here. Here we go. I'm going to put my compressors in on the snare as well, so it sounds really clean and bright. And also, I'm feeding the snare through to the bus as well to sidechain the original break. So basically what I'm trying to do is to let the kick and the snare shine through as loud as possible and duck. Ducking is when you kind of like reduce the level momentarily of the original break. Now that's because I want the kick and the snare to shine through when they're playing, and I want the detail on the original Alex Reese break to shine through when the kick and snare are not playing. So it's compressed very heavily, and hopefully it will sound good. This is how it sounds. Now the kick and the snare are loud and proud, and I can hear all of the detail exaggerated on the original break. Let's compress it even more. And there you have it. So let's just listen to the original break, pre-processing, with nothing on it. It's good, but some people, when they're making records these days, would want it all exaggerated with a lot more of a fierce kick and snare and more detail coming through, in which case it would sound like this. So there you go, that's how I get an old break and I add some kick and snare to it and bring it 2011 style. Thank you.